ค Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No matter how much it feels like Monday, it is actually Tuesday. And we're going to make it a terrific Tuesday as we call this meeting to order this morning. In fact, not only is it Tuesday, it is Tuesday, June 1st. It's the first day of June 2021, and we're here shortly after the 10 o'clock hour at 903 Main Street in the heart of Old Town Conyers in the Rockdale County Auditorium. We're calling commissioners this meeting to order. And Chief Cabe, I believe up first we have special recognitions and presentations.
Sir.
To include Ms. Robin Channon, Global Growers Network presentation. Robin, good morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Not only is it a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, but thank you. I haven't done one of these in-person presentations in a long time. It's great to be here today. It's great to see some familiar faces that I've only seen through computer screens. Good to see you in person. So good morning, and thank you for making space for this brief presentation. My name is Robin Channon. I am the co-founder and executive director of Global Growers Network. I had the chance to briefly introduce myself in this space earlier this year when we worked together on the Organic Farming Text Amendment. And because this commission adopted that Organic Farming Text Amendment, Global Growers Network will be officially expanding into Rockdale County this year. So I'm here today to share with you a little bit more about our plans. I'll share a bit of background on Global Growers, just who we are, what we do, and what we're planning to do here in Rockdale County. So let me start with our origin story. In the spring of 2010, a group of families from Burundi, Rwanda, and Tanzania broke ground on a small plot of land in Decatur, Georgia. And this group of resettled refugees had a strong desire to reconnect with their agricultural heritage as they rebuilt their lives here in the United States. Their plot of land came to be known as Umurima, which literally translates into farm in Kirundi, their home language. And this farm would become the inspiration for several hundred more families who ultimately came together to form Global Growers Network. So today, Global Growers operates as a 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission to partner with people from diverse cultures to grow fresh food for their families and for local marketplaces. And we do this by building and sustaining networks of land, resources, growers, and markets. The vision is to create a more equitable food system, and one that is driven by cultural diversity, inclusive economies, and regenerative agriculture practices. So what this looks like, in the last decade, we have sold more than $1 million worth of fresh fruits and vegetables locally. We've partnered with over 15 different distinct culture groups with 12 languages represented, English of course being one of those. And our crop list has expanded to include more than 65 different varieties of fruits and vegetables, both southern staples as well as some unique specialties from around the world. We are investing in land in Rockdale County because we believe that small family farms will play a leading role in improving food security, community vitality, and environmental stewardship, which we measure through biodiversity. So while we're known for our origins in the refugee community, we recognize that the value of creating inclusive and accessible agricultural programs for people who have experienced barriers to land access, either historically or currently. And we do understand the dark legacy of agriculture that exploited people and continues to exploit people of color. And we want to play a leading role in partnering to reverse some of those trends. So in the diverse metro Atlanta community, our land network, our network of farm and gardens, which now includes more than 9 locations, is an opportunity for folks to find fresh, culturally relevant produce and reconnect with the land in a meaningful and positive way. This is an now out-of-date map of our sites because it does not yet include our Rockdale County locations, but wanted to give you a glimpse of what our current land network looks like. And following a thoughtful and thorough land search, which is a nice way of saying that it took us 5 years to find this property, we identified this incredible 23-acre property in Rockdale County. And we do feel that Rockdale is perfectly positioned given its natural resources, its racial and cultural diversity, proximity to markets, and its strong sense of pride in community. So we were able to secure this site with a partnership with the Conservation Fund's Working Farms Fund program. We will own this land outright in 3 years following a fundraising campaign. But what we were able to do is partner with this conservation buyer who purchased the property and immediately entered into a lease-to-own agreement with Global Growers. And this pathway to land ownership is a new model that's currently being piloted in Georgia that's supporting farmland transition, and this is something that can continue to happen in Rockdale County. We're among the first in Georgia to pursue this pathway to land ownership, but there will be many more to follow. That fund has raised around $10 million now, which is the start of a revolving fund that will continue to invest in farmland throughout the state. And this would, of course, not have been possible for us to do without the county's commitment to supporting organic farming in the Watershed Protection District. So our new Rockdale County farm is designed to support the viability of small family farms, but is also doing that by creating a new destination for Rockdale residents to learn about where their food comes from. And we expect this will be a destination that features abundant fresh food while also celebrating local and global food culture through educational programs, harvest days, and farm events. In the months ahead, we'll be reaching out to local partners such as schools, community organizations, local markets to connect with future collaborators who can help us bring this dream to life here in Rockdale. If you'd like to learn more or discuss these plans further, I hope you'll reach out. This is just the beginning of our work here in Rockdale, and we're thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you so much, Robin, for this wonderful presentation. I'm going to yield to both of the commissioners. I will say that it was a pleasure meeting Robin and learning about this exciting project. This was one of the very first projects that I was able to assign to Ms. Mims in the Community Relations Office to work with Robin, and I know that she's reached out to both of the commissioners. We've been very protective here in Rockdale County about the WP, the Water Protection Area, and it means a lot to us because we just have to continue to be protective of our waterway. And one of our most proudest assets in the county is the fact that we own and operate our own water. There was no other project that I could think of that had a better fit than this project here. Also, commissioners, want to take a moment and give credit to our Planning and Development Department. The vision and the connectivity to make all of the dots connect was very important for Rockdale County. This project has so much potential and so much opportunity. Commissioner Washington, I want to yield to you and then to Commissioner Williams.
He says he's going to yield to us, and then he says everything I wanted to say. But no, I am very excited about this project. It's one of those projects that, you know, in doing economic development and wanting to see the county move in a certain direction, one of the challenges is keeping Rockdale with its own character and its own quote-unquote flavor. And I think that this is one of those projects that will do exactly that. And then it's got the education component, but it's also got the historical component and, you know, teaching us how to be self-sufficient. I know my daughter, who is a naturalist, is going to love this because this is what she wants to do. She wants to learn how to grow her own food. And because she's a vegetarian, this is right up her alley. So I'm excited about it. I know she's going to be very excited about it. And I hope the community is excited about it also. This is great, and I think that it fits perfectly into the total scheme of Rockdale County. So thank you for your efforts, and I'm so glad that your 5-year search landed you here in Rockdale County.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
So I want to thank you also because, you know, having taught school for 30 years, and I think if there was a theme through my teaching, it would have been, besides social justice, it would have been environmental issues. And this just fits that so well with, and in reality, it fits the social justice issues also when we're talking about diversity and inclusion and inclusive economies. And so I'm very excited about it. You know, my husband, for the first time in many, many years, first time since we've lived in the South, which has been over 30 years, he has a really nice garden going this year. So he will be very interested, I know, to come and find out more, learn more. And I'm excited about all the other different kinds of vegetables. And are you thinking about fruits also?
Yep, there will be plenty of fruit trees going in. We're working on our site plan now and going to try and get a pick-your-own orchard throughout the space that the community will be able to come out and learn about, taste, enjoy, take home.
Great. Mm-hmm. Yes, which takes me right back to my roots in California, because the last house we lived in, we had a whole bunch of fruit trees in our backyard. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about that too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you again to the planning department for working with us.
In fact, I'm going to ask that our Director of Planning and Development, Director Kalanis Johnson, he and his team, commissioners, I want you to know, did a fantastic job working with Robin and her team. And I'd like you, Director Johnson, just briefly talk about the vision in terms of connecting with global growers and some of the insight that you and your department have about moving the county forward with these very unique projects, but have the character that Commissioner Washington was referencing that's a right fit for Rockdale that Commissioner Williams pointed out.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Madam Commissioner.
Good morning.
Williams, Madam Commissioner Washington. It's ironic that this topic comes up. We actually had a conversation with two conversations last week. One with George Ramsey, who works with you as well as a Jay Jones with an agricultural tourism newsletter. He's actually writing an article about this item. But I got here in late December, early January. P&D staff was already in the process of coordinating with an organic farming and ordinance. You know, it encompassed an apiary for beekeeping aspect as well. But the meeting we had last week, the Zoom call, consisted of a site plan looking at the area in the WP district, and you had some of the renderings on your presentation. And we went over item by item certain things that are consistent with, and 85% of it was really consistent. There were a couple of items, potential for Airbnb, certain things that obviously are a little contrary to our current zoning ordinance, but overall, it was a nice concept. I think it's something that's well needed. We will definitely get behind it and support it. And it'll be a win-win for all involved. And so just will let you know, planning and zoning, we're still in the process of coordinating with this effort to make it come to a fruition. And Mr. Jones is actually writing an article that will be, I think, June 4th. He's trying to have a draft of it to go into this agritourism journal that he's writing for this magazine. So, yeah, on behalf of P&D, we're just glad you're doing this, and we look forward to a continual relationship with you.
Well, Director Johnson, again, thank you, and thank you to your staff for working with Rob. There's much more work to be done with this project.
A lot more.
This is only just the beginning, but I think we're off and headed in the right direction. Robin, thank you. We'll be talking with you soon in the days to come. Thank you so much. So, Chief Cabe, I think at this point we are ready for agenda review.
We're not doing that.
We have Director Barkley presentation this morning.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
That is absolutely right. Director Barkley, come on up. He has a presentation he wants to share with the BOC and the general public, and we don't want to miss this.
Good morning, Chairman. Good
Morning.
morning,
Good morning.
Madam Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, just to speak with you guys as far as talking about what the Board of Assessors actually do and how that correlates to the actual digest, as well as the budget and the millage rate. So what I wanted to do today is just focus a little bit on the actual tax digest, but that is actually part of the overall picture of property taxes. So I'm going to start by just telling you a little bit about how the property taxes work. Let's see here, where we get going. I tried to make things a little bit simpler so that it would be easy to understand. And I came up with the ABCs of property taxes. A is going to represent the assessed values. That's a responsibility and a key function of the Board of Assessors office. B represents the budgets, and this is going to be a function of the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners, and the City of Conyers. Each have individual budgets that are going to be affected by property taxes. C represents the calculation of the millage rate, and each one of these entities also have a key function as part of creating the millage rate for their different prospective budgets. That would be the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners, as well as the City of Conyers. So let's talk about the Board of Assessors. Our mission statement is to assure that all properties in Rockdale County are valued, equitable, and uniform while serving our customers with excellence. That's the key function as far as what we want to do as far as from the Board of Assessors office. Although our responsibility is to value property, we also want to offer a certain level of customer service. There are some laws that we're governed by, and these laws are state laws. They are 4853, which is one of the laws that we're focused on. And what that law says is that real property, including but not limited to leasehold, interest, less than fee, all personal property, shall be liable to taxation and shall be taxed, except otherwise provided by law. Liability of property for taxation shall not be affected by the individual, corporate character, or property owner by the resident or non-resident status of the property owner. What does that mean? That means that any individual is subject to taxation regardless of whether they're an individual or a corporation, or regardless of whether or not they're in the county or outside of the county. Meaning if they own property here, they are subject to taxation. The other key law that we focus on is 485299. And what that does is that gives the Board of Assessors the responsibility to go out and investigate diligently to inquire as far as what property is owned in the county. The first portion of that, it states that it shall be. And the word shall in this particular law indicates that we have no latitude as far as to decide whether we want to do it or not do it. If we don't do it, then we're breaking the law. This is so that we would look through and ascertain whether personal property is subject to taxation in the county, and also require the property to be returned for taxation. The board shall make such investigations as it be necessary to determine the value of property upon which for any reason all taxes due to state or the county have not been paid in full. So if the taxes have not been paid in full, if an individual or a company has not returned all of their property, it's the responsibility of the Board of Assessors to investigate and ensure that those properties are returned for taxation. All of these properties are based upon ad valorem. Ad valorem is a Latin word, and that's a tax according to the value of the property. It is a local tax levied by local authorities to pay for maintenance and operation of the local government. It is the largest source of revenue for funding local governments, which helps to provide many services of the citizens of the community. This is also will enhance economic development. I want to also give you guys just a glimpse of the timeline for the Board of Assessors. That's a very busy timeline. Yes. There are a lot of different things going on, and they're all color coordinated in a way to help us keep track of the different functions that we're doing throughout the year. Many counties within the state of Georgia have a timeline very similar to this, because a lot of the deadlines on this particular timeline are also, they are subject to the same deadlines as well as us, because state law mandates a lot of these particular deadlines. The first being January 1st. This one is in pink. That is the valuation date for assessments. Everything in the county is valued based on a January 1st assessment date. That means that whatever the snapshot in time is that value based on that particular date.
Okay.
So the second thing is April 1st. That is the deadline for all exemptions to be applied for, meaning homestead. Also, that could relate to a CUVA exemption as far as conservation or something of that nature. Freeport exemption for businesses. They are also due at that particular time. But we have a very busy timeline as you can see, but that details every function pretty much as far as within the office that we have to go through during the year. The next thing, we're going to talk about the different classes of properties that my staff has to look at to determine the valuation of those properties. There are intangible properties. This could be anything that's related to stocks, bonds, trademarks, copyright, things of those natures are not subject to taxation in the state of Georgia by local authorities. However, tangible properties are. And there are two types of tangible properties. There is real property, which consists of residential, commercial, agricultural, industrial, and there's business personal property. This is going to be boats, inventory, machinery, and also airplanes. There are a few airplanes that are actually located within the county that are subject to taxation. These things are valued by the county assessor's office. And our primary function, as I stated before, is to value all property within the county at its correct level of value and also at its fair market value. Those are the purposes and functions that we look at. We also want to ensure uniformity and of these assessments, as well as the many property owners within the county. And once again, our date of valuation is January 1st. Everything that we focus on is based on a valuation date of January 1st. Let's take a look at some of the different properties that we actually have within the county. Some of these properties are actually photos of properties that we've taken within the county. We have the pre-built mobile homes. We also have agricultures. As far as with the pre-built mobile homes, these are mobile homes where individuals do not own the actual land. They may just only own the mobile home. They are not able to get a homestead exemption unless they actually own the mobile home and the land. So these are different classes of property, as well as agricultural. You can see the farm equipment. We also have residential properties. You need to own and occupy that particular home in order to get a homestead exemption on that one. And you're only subject to one of those within the state of Georgia. Commercial businesses. We value those based upon the actual business itself and the inventory inside.
So, Director Barkley, going back to the residential in this photo here, you could only claim homestead exemption if that is your primary place of residence.
That is correct.
So you can own multiple houses throughout the state, but only claim homestead for one address.
Absolutely correct. You can have multiple homes all over the country if you choose, but you can only get homestead exemption on one particular location.
Gotcha.
Your primary residence.
Okay.
The business personal property, as you can see, that's equipment that's inside of a business. And that includes anything that actually adds value to a business. Something just as simple as the pictures that are on the wall. Many may not understand or know that those are subject to taxation as well. If they add value to your business, they are subject to taxation. Industrial properties, they are taxable as well. This would be any type of manufacturing or industrial business within the county. Let's talk about the mass appraisal process. The mass appraisal process is totally different from what we term as a fee appraisal. If you were having your home refinanced, the fee appraiser would come out and he would look at your home and pick 3 homes very similar to your home to try to establish a valuation for your property. He may decide to look even in another county or further away from your neighborhood to find something that he may deem to be comparable to that property. However, the Board of Assessors, we're restricted to value properties based on a mass appraisal approach. And what that involves is that we have to identify all of the properties that we're going to value, That's the first step. I've given you examples of the different types of properties. And then we have to collect the data and do an analysis to determine what is the correct valuation of that property. And part of the data collection and the analysis may be permits, or it may be sales that have occurred in that area, and then we determine a valuation based on that. And once the Board of Assessors have established the valuation, then the next step is a notice of assessment. And that's the opportunity where the board sends a notice to every property owner in the county that is subject to taxes, as far as to notify them of the current year valuation for their property. And they have an appeal process if they disagree with that value. And I will go through the appeal process. And also, the last and final step is not something that the Board of Assessors handle, but is actually handled by the tax commissioner, and that is the actual tax bill. That is how the mass appraisal process works. I know that we're very short on time, and I can go into greater detail on this, but I wanted to give you guys an overview of what it looks like and what the connection is with all of the things that we're looking at as far as the budget and also the millage rate.
So, Director Barkley, if you go back to that slide, and I'm conscious of the time, but I think this is very critical, very informative information, not just for us as members of the BOC, because we receive a great number of calls during the time of the year that the statements go out, whether we're getting them through the office or people we run into in the community. And simply because folks don't understand and they don't know. This 6-step mass appraisal process is something that I don't think this is the first time. I think we're going to have to do this presentation, if not on a quarterly basis, at least twice a year, to help residents understand where we must get to as a community. And the only way to get there, you've got to educate people. So in the education out of your office, this is what you do on a day-to-day basis. It also starts and includes us. We're not the tax assessor, but oftentimes we're fielding or receiving a lot of those calls and entertaining people, whether on aisle 12 at the grocery store, at church, or somewhere in the community, because someone's a little upset, or simply because they're uninformed or uneducated about how the process works.
Absolutely.
So I think it's also, it was a good presentation to show that it is the county, the city, and the school board that each have a piece of those taxes. Because, you know, as a resident, what happens is you see the bottom line. You see that number. Mm-hmm. And unless you take the time to look at where that money is being allocated, many people think it all goes to the county and that we're raising taxes and that kind of thing. So I think it's really important to let people know that they need to see where that allocation of taxes is going.
Right.
And
that's a very valid point, and a little further down in the presentation you will see as far as where the tax dollars are going. I'm going to emphasize that as well.
Oh, okay.
Are you done with the presentation, or?
I'm still going.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you were
No. We still have a little bit more to go, so if y'all can bear with me.
I just said, okay.
All right, this is actually what we call a taxpayer's return of property. Each year, a taxpayer have an opportunity to declare what they think their valuation should be for that particular year. And once again, the valuation date is January 1st. I'm going to keep mentioning that because that's the important date as far as what we have to remember. What their valuation is going to be set upon is that particular date. A taxpayer may file a return declaring what they think their value is, and the Board of Assessors are responsible for reviewing their particular valuation to ensure that that value is correct. We will send a notice of assessment out once we do receive that, but that won't go out until the normal notice of assessments. But we will have contact with that taxpayer if they file what we call a real property return. The businesses are also required to file a return between January 1st and April 1st. And if they're one of the manufacturing companies within the county, they're required no later than June 1st to notify us of any inventory that they may deem to be subject to Freeport exemption. If they do not, then they may lose that exemption for that particular year. And we'll talk a little bit more about the appeal process, because I'm sure a lot of people want to go through the appeal process if they disagree with their value. The taxpayer has 45 days from the date of the assessment notice to file an appeal. And I repeat, the date that the notice is mailed. They have 45 days from that date, not 45 days from the date that they receive it. By law, they have 45 days from the date that we mail it out. So once they receive that notice, if they disagree with that notice, they have an opportunity to file an appeal. They can actually do that online in 2021. We started that in 2020 due to COVID, and this is an opportunity for them to actually file their appeals online. They'll go through the process and won't have to submit anything other than documentation that will support their grounds for appeal. Their appeal can be based upon several different things. It could be based upon the value, if they disagree with our value. It could be based upon they don't think their neighborhood is valued correctly. That is considered uniformity. It could be, they can declare an appeal based on taxability if they don't think their property is subject to taxation. Or they can file an appeal based upon an exemption denial or a breach of a covenant. But the taxpayer has 45 days from that particular notice to be able to file an appeal. And they may proceed to the Board of Equalization, the arbitration, or a hearing officer, or may decide to go straight to Superior Court. This is just the process as far as how this appeal process works. This is based upon House Bill 202, and it illustrates as far as, based upon state law, as far as what we should follow as far as establishing how the appeal process works. It is very similar to every other county within the state of Georgia. They must follow that. Let's talk about the actual digest. So I've talked to you guys about how we go through and how we establish values. And once we establish values, what are the requirements that we look at? Now let's talk about the actual digest, how what we do correlates into the digest. The Board of Assessors reviewed for 2020, 36,829 personal property and parcels for 2020. This equated to $3.2 billion in assessed values. That was the Board of Assessors' portion for determining what the value would be for the tax digest. And let's actually look at the actual tax digest. When we get to the point where we're looking at the tax digest, if you look at the very top right-hand column, that is the same number that I gave you. And that is the number from the Board of Assessors. That's the real and personal properties of the dollar amount that we established. And these assessed values, they're not the actual fair market value, but yet they are 40% of the actual fair market value. So we're looking at what we call assessed value, which is 40%. So in the state of Georgia, you're taxed on 40% of your fair market value, not 100% of the value. So those numbers are 40% numbers. So let's bring all this back into a full circle. We're going to look at the budget, the digest, and the millage rate. And everybody has a part in that. The Board of Assessors, our responsibility is to digest. That's the sole responsibility of what the Board of Assessors have. We don't calculate the taxes for anyone. We don't change anything based upon the commissioners asking us to raise values to increase the taxes. That's not a responsibility for the Board of Assessors. Our responsibility is to value all properties at its fair market value as of January 1st of each year. The function of the tax commissioner is to ensure that the Board of Assessors numbers are correct and assist as far as with creating a tax bill based upon the numbers that are generated from the county, the city, and the Board of Education. All of them have 3 separate budgets that is part of this whole process. And they also are part of the millage rate. They create a millage rate to generate a certain amount of tax dollars for the budgets that they're going to need. That's how all of that comes into play. Where do these tax dollars go? Commissioner Williams, you were asking. I looked at a home last year that was valued at $175,000. That home had homestead and it also had a host exemption. 82% of those taxes went towards the school. 18% went towards the county. And that was due to the fact that the county's M&O, you were exempt 70% of the county's M&O based upon the host.
And M&O.
M&O is the maintenance and operation of these particular budgets. The county has one, the school has one, and the city has one as well. So from the county's M&O, 70% of those was exempt, which left a county responsibility for this particular taxpayer of just 18% of the overall tax bill. Just to make sure that that sinks in, because when I looked at it, I needed to make sure those numbers were correct. It is 82%. 82% of those tax dollars goes towards the school, and only 18% goes towards the county. What are these tax dollars used for? Here are a couple of pictures as far as what they're used for. Used for school buses, used for schools, used for public safety. You would see the sheriff's office and also the fire department. It also is used for the maintenance and operation, as I stated before, of the county, of the city, and of the school board. So that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Okay, so I received a letter. I don't know if you all received this letter also, but this person took the time to not just send it to the county office. They sent the same letter to my house and to my job, my office.
I got it.
Okay.
I did too.
Okay. And so, to me, this was very important to them, so I do want to address it.
Okay.
They have a idea that in Rockdale County, we should not have any property taxes at all, and try to have sales taxes or some other fees that could cover the property taxes. And their theory is that if we don't have any property taxes, then people will come to us to have economic development in order to, and that would bring more industry to the county. Would we be able to legally not have any property taxes in Rockdale County?
I don't think that's a decision that the Board of Commissioners makes, nor is it a decision the Board of Education or any entity within the community. I think that has to be a legislation that is actually pushed by someone at the state. They could pass a bill or something of that nature. Once they pass the bill, it actually has to be on the ballot, and the citizens within the community actually have to vote on it. And it's pretty similar to the homestead exemptions that we have here, and also the Freeport exemption. Those items were actually voted on by the citizens within the community. That's not something that the Board of Commissioners actually would be a person who, or entity who would be in control of pursuing that.
So based on your knowledge of property taxes and what have you, what would we have, where would we compensate for the lack of property taxes if something like that were to?
Well, let me say this, and this is what I tell anyone who asks that question. I'm glad you asked that question. And I'm going to simplify it and say it this way. If you offer an exemption to one individual, when you offer that exemption to that individual, you are taking the responsibility to pay their share. So whoever you offer that exemption to, you're taking the responsibility to pay their share. So there's still a certain amount of tax dollars that still has to be collected. So regardless of who pays them, they're still going to be collected based upon the budgets that we have so forth. So if you decide that you're going to give everyone that has a blue suit an exemption, that means that we're going to pick up the responsibility for any individual who don't have to pay a tax based on the fact that they wear blue suits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have for right now. That was my burning question. I probably will come back after.
Well, I think, along that conversation, the money's going to come one way or another. And sometimes at the federal level, I've explained to people that just because you're getting an exemption here, that money has to come from somewhere. And so the thought, of course, with a sales tax is that people coming from out of the area would contribute, which is why we have the host. Mm-hmm. But that's only a penny tax. I can't even imagine what tax it would take to cover our property taxes.
And not only that, we would have to tax at a rate where it would be detrimental. If we put it, if if I have a loaf of bread and I'm trying to tax this loaf of bread enough to get it so it can raise the money to fund the government,
Right.
and right across the line, you can go to DeKalb County or Newton County and get a loaf of bread for much, much less. Eventually, you're gonna get it that, okay, this loaf of bread costs $5 in Rockdale County, but it only costs $1.99 in Newton County or $2 in DeKalb County, and eventually you're gonna stop shopping in Rockdale County. That would be my theory.
Well, and I can't see anybody coming to Rockdale thinking they're going to buy and spend their money if the sales tax was really high.
And just to add a little bit more clarity to your question, Commissioner Washington,
Thank you.
I don't think there are any counties within the state of Georgia where anything like that is being done.
There aren't.
There are?
There are not. Well, because, like I said, this person took so much time to send these letters, not, like I said, not just to the county, but to my home, my office, everything. So I took the time to do some research on it, and there is no place in the United States that does not have property taxes. And certain states, I think Alabama has the lowest property taxes in the state, in the nation. I think Georgia ranks right in the middle. I think we're number 26. But places that have low property taxes but high quality of life, they have outrageous cost of living. Like, for example, the state of Hawaii actually has a very low property tax, but because they have taxed so many other things, the cost of living in Hawaii is so much higher. So it's really not a very cost-effective or feasible thing to do.
Right, and I think that answers, pretty much answers the question as well, because when you really look at it, I know there are several states within the nation that actually personal property is not subject to taxation in those particular states. However, they're still going to get tax dollars from some other means. So that means that other things are going to be taxed even more because they're not collecting taxes from personal property. Right. And Georgia is not one of those states where you are exempt from personal property tax.
Right.
Right. Director Barkley, first of all, I'm glad that Commissioner Washington shared the fact that we received the letter from the resident. This wasn't the first time since I've been serving that I've received a letter not only at the office, here at the office, but also at home. I've received several letters directly to my home. Oftentimes I can't think of the first time I ever mentioned it or brought it up. And I've had all kind of letters sent to mailed to my home. For me, number one is always a security issue and a safety factor. But I did take a look at it from the same standpoint that the commissioner did, that for a resident, a taxpayer to go to that length to send the letter and the information and express themselves not only here at the workplace, but to make sure that at our personal residence we receive the information. Several ways of looking at it. People were really serious about getting a point across. There's a level of frustration, but more importantly, it's about what you've done this morning. There's a lack of education and information, and I certainly do appreciate your presentation this morning. And to the point I made earlier, this cannot and will not be the last time that we have you to come in and educate. One of the points that Commissioner Williams pointed out, and I think the three of us have certainly been doing that over the last few years, and we're going to be doing even more of it. Your presentation pointed it out very clearly. There are 3 entities in this community where taxes come from: the City of Conyers, Rockdale County Board of Commissioners, and the Rockdale County Public Schools. You also had a graph that showed that 82% of the taxes collected in this county go toward public education. Only 18% come back so that we can focus on M&O, maintenance and operation. When we come in to our previous board meetings and we have Director Simpkins to talk about stormwater infrastructure or RWR, talking about infrastructure or transportation or litter and all of those things that it takes to run a community, a county. We have to have those tax dollars coming in. When we coming out on the tail end of 40 years of neglect, of leadership not addressing stormwater, this is some of the problems that we see when we don't take care of our county, particularly infrastructure. Those amenities that we hear all the time in the community, people comparing us to other counties and other municipalities. Why don't we have this? And why don't we have that? Well, all of those things come with a cost, with a price. And in order for us to compete, attract and retain people in our community, we've got to build the infrastructure up. We have to bring in quality of life amenities so that we can have those things that families will like to have, that industries who are bringing employees to work in our community will have at their fingertips and be accessible to in our community. And all of that requires tax dollars. We cannot have a community where you don't pay taxes on property. That just cannot exist. So again, thank you for, and you started out talking about how the ABCs and how much of a lay presentation. I'd like for you to, I'm going to stay in my lane and not come across the street into your department. You're much more abreast and educated on the work of the tax assessor's office than any one of the three of us. But we certainly do appreciate knowing that we can redirect citizens to your office and your team for education. And commissioners, lastly, I'll say this. That's a part of the excitement of the brand new Citizens Academy, because now in the Citizens Academy, those citizens who are interested in civics and politics and how local government work, particularly here in Rockdale County, they can sign up, enroll, and become a participant, an active participant in the brand new Rockdale Citizens Academy, when they will have an opportunity to get a presentation from Director Barkley and or a member of his staff, as well as various county departments, to gain a better understanding how things work, whether we're replacing a 1988 fire truck or whether we're replacing a 1996 Ford Crown Victoria that the sheriff's office is still driving, or whether we're replacing a 1996 Ford Ranger that they have over at the tax assessor's office, loaded with rust and a ton of miles, and they're not sure they're going to get from business to business and house to house. These things cost. So this presentation was very timely. I think for myself and the commissioners, we needed this. We're going to need it again. And I pray that it is my hope, Ms. Owens, that public relations will slow the repeater down on Channel 23 when Director Barkley's presentation is on, so that people can take it all in for what it's worth.
Maybe
commissioners?
He can do his own videotaping of this, and it can play independent of the meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Director Barkley, great job this morning. Thank you. This was very needed and very timely for us. We will be talking with you and your team in the days ahead. Thank you so much. Mr. Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll get started with our agenda review for today. The first item falls under unfinished business, and this will be presented for a second read. Item 2021-259 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 70, Part 2 of the Code of Ordinances of Rockdale County, Georgia, entitled Parks and Recreation, to provide an effective date and for other purposes. Any questions from the commissioners?
Can you refresh our memories on exactly what that is? Because it's not the fee schedule, because I noticed
that's correct. Madam Commissioner, it's the Chapter 70, Part 2. This is where the fine amount for littering, terminology was referred to refer to Section 111, so that If the judges deem appropriate, they could fine up to a $1,000 fine for littering violations, and it removes the exclusion of having a cap at $100.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
My only confusion is why Water Resources analyze the provision.
I'm sorry, water resources.
On where, the second whereas, it says whereas Rockdale Water Resources analyze the provision.
In the second paragraph of the resolution of the ordinance.
Oh. Rockdale Water Resources analyze the provisions. Mr. County Attorney, can you speak to?
I can speak to the edited and corrected if there's a typo.
Okay. Madam Commissioner, we'll get an answer for you before.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's correct before we can amend it and vote on it
Yes, ma'am.
on Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am, before
That's
next Tuesday.
It appears, Madam Commissioner, there may be a typo and that can be amended.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good noticing.
Next item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The next item on the agenda, 2021-260, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council through the CJCC. This is through our juvenile court. This is the Family Treatment Court. This is a grant in the amount of $34,462 with the term from July 1st of this year through June 30th, 2022. And commissioners, if it's, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'll just keep going. And if any commissioners have any questions, I'll
Yes.
stop.
Please.
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda is item 2021-261, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council again through the Juvenile Court. This is the Resource Court. This is a grant in the amount of $56,665 from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2022. Next item, 262, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council through the Juvenile Court again for the Drug Court. This is a grant in the amount of $73,021 from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2022. Next item on the agenda, 2021-263, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. This is through our state court. This is the DUI Court Supervised Treatment Program. This is a grant in the amount of $88,421 from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2022. Next item, item 264, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. This is through our Superior Court. This is the Adult Drug Court. This is a grant in the amount of $210,443 from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2022. Next item, 265, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council through our Superior Court again. This is for the Resource Court. This is a grant in the amount of $157,093 from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2022.
So I just would like to make a comment about all of these grants. The last three, of course, State Court, Superior Court, and the two for Superior Court, all are part of the diversion process of keeping people from being incarcerated to receiving treatment.
Right.
And I love what the juvenile court has been doing, because so many times they end up, if they started juvenile court, they end up eventually in adult court. And so if we can intervene and divert, which I love the family treatment court idea, we can change pathways
Right.
before they become ingrained, and will reduce the need for incarceration as adults. So all of these fit together with our Stepping Up initiative.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 2021-266, is through the Atlanta Regional Commission. This is from our General Services Department. This is a transportation voucher program grant. It's change order number 1 to 2020-110 to increase the grant amount for capital to $7,276 and decrease operations amount from $21,961. This is a term of August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2021.
So with that increase and the decrease, does that mean that they balance out to the exact same number that we had?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, they changed this so that the operations, because of COVID and we don't have people coming in, that's the operations with our staff, so we're able to flip the money and use it for the capital, for the actual voucher program for the external drivers. If that makes sense. They're trying to work with us throughout COVID. You've seen several change orders the ARC's been trying to modify as we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 2021-267. Mr. Chairman, Madam Commissioners, I make a recommendation that this be deferred to the June 15th work session and removed from this agenda, if there are no objections.
No objection.
Okay.
I support it. I think that would give the Director of Talent Management and your office an opportunity to recircle back to the executive team and then back to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 2021-268 is through Georgia Time Recorder Incorporated through our Clerk of Court's office. This is for date time stamps with analog clocks, a total of 6, in the amount of $1,279.50 from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2022. Next item is item 269. This is for Nora Spatola Haynes. This is through our BOC. Opening doors to recovery for persons with serious mental illness through our Stepping Up initiative in the amount of $10,000 for the next 12 months from June 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2022.
So I might just tell you that Nora Haynes worked with Dr. Michael Compton from Columbia University in doing the Opening Doors to Recovery project in Savannah in Chatham County. And she is going to be advising and working with us to make sure that we get that set up correctly.
Very
Very
good.
good. Excellent.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 2021-270, requisition through our Superior Court Judge Bill's office for accountability lab services. This is through Microgenics Corporation for reagents and non-consumables, not to exceed $75,000. Item 271, requisition through the Rockdale Sheriff's Office for ProLogic ITS. This is for emergency equipment for the 2021 Ford Explorers, an additional $9,958.63.
So did, so did the price go up on the cars, or?
It was, as with everything else, it was additional costs that are incurred because prices are rising in a ripple effect. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Item 272 is a requisition through our district attorney's office for Making the Transition. This is community outreach program in the amount of $50,000. Item 273 is through our transportation RDOT. This is for Atlas Technical Consultants LLC. This is for right-of-way acquisition services in the amount of $192,000. Next item, 274, is a requisition through our RDOT Transportation Department for Atkins North America Incorporated. It's for the completion of 2021 RAISE grant application in the amount of $30,000. Item 275 is a requisition through the Transportation Department for Temple Incorporated. This is for solar-powered school flasher assemblies in the amount of $155,367.84.
And Chief, I've gotten a lot of text messages on this one. I've got emails and calls. I'm going to ask Director Moretto if he would come on up and give us a brief on this one. The commissioners may have received some community inquiries on this one as well. Director Moretto.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Madam Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm very excited about this order that we're placing here. This is for school flashers at 24 locations throughout the county. These are the school flashers that you see when you're entering into a school zone. With this, we will be able to disconnect the power source and make it a solar assembly, a standalone assembly only. As well, we will be able to remotely operate to make sure that these school flashers only flash when they're supposed to flash. Very excited about this. This will be something that the county will install and maintain ourselves, but it's a great project, both from a green standpoint as well as from an accountability and a clear and concise message for the signs.
So this is not the cameras that you talked about at
No, ma'am.
some of the school zones?
No, ma'am. This is only the school flashers, the yellow blinking school
Okay.
flashers.
And we are doing this with the blessing of the school board
Yes,
and/or
this has
sheriff's
been
department.
coordinated with the Board of Education as well. Most of this is only replacing what we already have. A lot of our old school flashers are fairly old. Some of them are not the best as far as conveying the message, and so these will be clear, concise, and very easily to read and to understand.
Thank you, Director. Thank you so much, Commissioners. I wanted to highlight that one simply because of two things. Commissioner Williams made mention of the camera system, the new camera system that is all throughout the city and the county of here in Rockdale County, particularly in our school zones, and to highlight the flashers. Oftentimes people call because the flashers aren't flashing on a Saturday or Sunday. Well, when school is out, they really don't need to flash because it confuses a driver. If there is a school activity during those times on the weekend that requires for safety and awareness, they have the ability to activate those flashes during that time. The confusion, again, was about the camera system. So here's another announcement, I guess, a warning that there are cameras in our school zones. We need you to slow down in our school zone. We still have a number of young people who walk to school, and a good amount of morning traffic of parents dropping kids off in the school zone. So please be mindful as you move through the city and the county that there are cameras that will take a picture of your speed and your license plate, and you will be mailed a citation. And we believe from a safety standpoint, it makes sense here in our county to slow folks down, particularly in our school zone. So we're excited, and Commissioner Washington concern was, is the school board on board with us in terms of this particular new implementation? And the answer to that question is yes, they are. It's only going to protect the safety of our young people. So I wanted to make sure I pointed. Thank you, Director Moretto. Chief Cape.
Item 276 is requisition through our Transportation Department. This is through Atkins North America Incorporated. This is for roadway inventory and evaluations, pavement condition survey and management system in the amount of $160,000. Next item 277 is an expenditure request through COT Systems Incorporated through our Clerk of Superior Court. This is for the online index books projects deeds in the amount of $24,795. Item 278 is an expenditure request to the City of Conyers through our Finance Department. This is for landfill expenses from July 20th, 2020, or correction, July of 2020 to April 2021 in the amount of $27,267.11. Next item 279 is an expenditure request through Peach State Assistance Incorporated for our tax commissioner. This is for delinquent notice fees, April 2021.
So those are notices going out for fees that were not paid last year?
Yes, ma'am. Item 2021-280 is surplus of equipment through Clerk of Superior Court. Item 281 is policy number 2021-2-18. And this is Parks and Recreation's fee schedule policy.
Let me I'm going to dangerously say a little bit as Director Sanders prepares herself, but we've done two things, Commissioners. We've given an incentive for our employees as well as for the residents of Rockdale County. As things continue to open up, the weather changing, season changing, we're going to the downside, we believe, of the pandemic. More people will continue to get out and participate in outdoor activities. For our employees, we've given them a break as well as residents who live in Rockdale County in terms of the rental fee and entering and using some of the facilities throughout Rockdale County. Director Sanders, can you give us the brief update on that, please?
Good morning. This fee schedule is a housekeeping item for we had 2 previous fee schedules, one for costly mill and then one for general recreation and maintenance fees. With the change in the department name, we have updated the fee schedule to be all in one policy. And the updates are the user fees will remain the same. So the last policy was adopted in 2013. We are not increasing any of the fees for the citizens with this policy change. So this is basically housekeeping, changing the department name. We've also incorporated costly mill and parks and recreation into one since it's the same department. We also changed the senior age. Senior citizen, the senior center, the senior age is 60. In Parks and Rec, we had 62. So we are making the age 60 for both entities. So to qualify for those fees, you must be 60. So they are in line. We added the CE Steel fees. Those were not on our previous policy as we took the center back from the foundation about 1.5 years ago. We removed the Parker Road meeting rooms from our fee schedule. We removed some wording for television and movies in there because those are handled separately with CREDC and Gina Hartzell, so we're working on something separate with her. We removed the Adirondack shelter fees that were at South Rockdale. We actually are going to move those with the new grant that we're working on for the DeCastro House to have a nature center there. And then lastly, we did put in some discounts. Previously, we had given discounts at Costly Mill for the employees, and we hadn't done anything with General Parks and Recreation. So we have added discounts to the daily admission, monthly, quarterly, for the employees at Johnson Park, as well as Black Shoals. The employees can get in for free. And this is all in preparation for us getting ready to open back up Johnson Park August 1st, so that our fees are all set. We can get it in the computer system for the staff, and also when we begin to take reservations again for our facilities as well. So, did I cover everything? Any other questions?
I think you did. Commissioners, y'all have any questions for the director?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, item 282 ties into item 281. This is the repeal of 2 policies. Rockdale County Department of Recreation and Maintenance Fee Schedule 2013-2-8, and also Rockdale County Department of Recreation and Maintenance Costly Mill Fee Schedule 2020-2-16. Item 283 are alcoholic beverage licenses. Item 284 is a resolution consenting to the de-annexation of certain real property commonly referred to as Antioch Street from the City of Conyers and for other purposes. And Mr. Chairman, we are at public comment.
All right, thank you, Chief. Great job. Commissioners, any questions or comments on what we just reviewed during agenda review? Anything that stands out to you that you want to elaborate on?
Well, the de-annexation, I think that needs to be explained to the people exactly what we're doing and why.
Yes, ma'am. So on May 19th of this year, the City of Conyers approved a resolution. There's property located off of Centennial Olympic Parkway that is privately owned by a citizen. Majority of their property is located in the county jurisdiction, however, unincorporated area of Rockdale County. However, there's a tiny street that's referred to privately as Antioch Street, and it's a dirt road basically that goes from Centennial Olympic Parkway to Dennard Road. It's totally inclusive of a little over 1.5 acres, and essentially what they're wanting to do, for some reason, that dirt roadway was left in the city when the horse park was acquired by the city, and they want to de-annex that so that it's unincorporated, so that all of their property is in the county jurisdiction.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right, so Commissioners, we're down to public comment at this time. And Ms. Owens, if there's anyone that have public comments or like to participate, should I say, in public comment, if you haven't filled out a red comment card, this will be the opportunity to do that at this time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I do not have any.
And I think Mr. Lewis is looking for a comment card. Ms. Owens, I can see him.
Mr. Chairman, while the gentleman's completing that, I'll go ahead and...
Please do, Chief. Thank you.
As a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments relative to any issues that are currently going through the public hearing process, matters that are in active litigation, political campaigning, or partisan politics will not be heard in this meeting. Speakers are to address the chairman, not each other or the audience, and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers and/or members of the audience shall be permitted.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Lewis, you can continue to fill that out, but make your way to the podium and we'll entertain you and we'll get that too. Thank you, Ms. Owens.
Okay, so I just checked the census. About 14% of our county population is over 65. So I was wondering what percentage of that population are homeowners. I think that would be a good thing to know for tax policy going forward. And I think it's good for people to know concerning the school board taxes. Every county is complaining about school board taxes, and I think the reason why is during the pandemic, we had literally every county buy every student Chromebooks, and Chromebooks are expensive. So if our under 18 population is about 24% of the county, I think that school tax bill would probably be expensive because we have an unusual expense. We still have to pay teachers during the pandemic. A lot of the buildings are kept running, and I think a lot of the residents may not have taken that into consideration. I'm not on the school board, I'm just speculating. But I do know for a fact that those Chromebooks, when I went in Walmart, they were at least $200. And if we're considering that's every student, that might give some explanation to why the tax bill is so high. But as far as our senior citizens, if they are a large majority of our homeowner population, we want to consider what does Rockdale County want to attract going forward, because we are the oldest county of our neighbors. We are 37%. We are age 37. I think Clayton County is age 26. So in the next 10 years, as I mentioned online, we may end up losing a lot of people, and we do have to plan, especially in our comprehensive plan concerning that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Thank you so much. And we certainly appreciate all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, one interesting thing I heard as I was listening to Mr. Lewis, if his numbers are correct, and I don't know that, but he referenced Rockdale County in comparison with Clayton County. He used an average age of 26 to 37. Now those numbers speak to the level of crime and activity when I begin to think about what happens in Rockdale and what doesn't happen in Rockdale. Typically, a 37-year-old is, on an average, starting a family, have already started a family. A 26-year-old may be just wrapping up college or going through a second phase or a master's program in college, or some of those folks are just in the regular workforce. But when you break down those demographics, it talks about the different mindset of those age population. Again, someone that's 37 years old on an average usually is starting a family and much more responsible, and may even be a homeowner or purchasing their first home. So this speaks to the volume in terms of activity in our community. I think the conversation will continue as relate to the taxes and the difference between what happens with seniors and our local school system. There is an impact, in terms of the decision that's made. But the clarity is this, and Director Barkley has pointed it out. The Board of Commissioners is not the entity to make that decision. That will be made by the citizens through state legislation and in cooperation with the folks over at the school board. He pointed out that he is not a member of the Rockdale County Public School System. Thank you so much. I just wanted to point that out. Commissioner Washington, we'll start with you with board comments.
So yesterday we had the absolute pleasure of being involved in the Memorial Day tribute. I don't want to say celebration because it is definitely not a celebration. It was to me a little extra special because it was one of Rockdale's own that gave the speech. And, you know, most people know that I have a long litany of family members that have served, and we still have one that's in active duty now. And after I left, I was somber for the rest of the day, grateful for the sacrifices that people have made so that we can have the quality of life that we have, the freedom that we have. You know, I tell people I've been a lot of places all over the world, and I'm always glad to get back home. Every time I leave, I'm glad to come home. And a lot of that is because we do get to enjoy the freedoms that people have died for. And, you know, Colonel Hanson's speech, you know, him having the privilege, he called it a privilege of giving the slow hand salute to people who have lost a family member. Just, it really made me solemn for the entire day, to the point where I texted my brother, you know, telling him that I don't know if I ever told him how proud I was of his service, but I'm especially thankful that I don't have to remember him on Memorial Day. And my brother has a Bronze Star, and he won't even tell us what he had to go through to get it. So whatever he went through, you know, he has definitely paid his debt to society. So I want to hold all of the soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, I don't know what they call the people in Coast Guard, but that have made the ultimate sacrifice. Just give them a moment of honor, and their families a moment of honor, because they do have to remember. They did receive that folded flag, when we have several of those folded flags, but it has to be a different feeling when you're receiving it when someone is in not coming home from their duty assignment. So I just wanted to, you know, just iterate that Memorial Day is nothing happy about Memorial Day. It is supposed to be a solemn day, a day of remembrance, but also a day of gratitude, giving thanks for this great country that we live in. That being said, school should be out. Is school out? If it's not out, it will become, are they?
Last week was the last week.
Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't see any school buses today, so. But my week has been crazy. So school is out, but we do want to tell everybody to be careful. Children are out, they're playing. I know my neighborhood has children all over it, playing outside, which is a good thing. But we want to, you know, just have everybody mindful that school is out. I do want to say congratulations to all of the 2021 graduates, and I'm so glad that they got to March this year. You know, that makes everything extra special. And I wish them well on everything that they set out to do. You know, we live in a time where everything has changed. I had a intern that worked for me. She was in high school, And she had an online store where she was selling hair bundles, making $3,500 a month, sitting at home selling hair as a teenager. So, you know, things have changed, technology is changed, so these children have a tremendous opportunity to be and do whatever they want to do, be largely in part because of all the sacrifices our soldiers have made for Memorial Day. So we see how I tied all of that in together. My last thing is stormwater. We have talked a lot about the stormwater rates and everything, and I said last week that we finally found the picture that I was looking for. And this is a picture of what was supposed to be a solution to this culvert collapsing. Y'all, this isn't a solution. This is in imaginative engineering,
to say the least.
to say the least, where no planning, no preparation, no maintenance has been done, and the culvert collapsed, and the solution was to find sticks and put it back together and go about their day.
And Commissioner, I do want to point out something for a point of clarity. The solution that we're looking at was not remedied by the Stormwater Department or the Stormwater Division. That was done, that was done by local citizens and discovered by our team upon arrival to that situation. When they arrived there, from the information I've received, they took pictures. That's how we have this photo. But that was not done by our engineering department. And I want to make sure I clarified that so folks don't think that we went out there and there's a term that I rigged it. They rigged it.
That's, I almost said it just a second ago.
No, we can't say that term.
I almost said it. That's why I said imaginative.
So calm down. That's why I'm here to help you.
Engineering. But we deserve better than this. And someone sent an email asking us what we mean by a proactive approach to stormwater. Well, this is definitely not a proactive approach to stormwater. A proactive approach to stormwater maintenance would be having an accounting of stormwater, all the culverts in the county, having a system that we are checking to make sure that none of this is happening again, and coming up with a solution to the culvert problems. Look, if you look at all that rust on the bottom of, from what I understand, they're not even doing corrugated culverts as much anymore, if at all. But Rockdale County, we deserve better than this. We deserve the best that we can afford, and this just isn't it. And you know, I appreciate the imaginative engineering, but proactive stormwater maintenance is something that would eliminate these kinds of solutions in the future. Even if they are, and I get it, the citizens did what they could, but it was probably because there was no solution given when they complained about it, and they did what they could. And we don't even know what administration this came in, but this is just definitely not a solution to the problem.
And you're absolutely right. And I don't think our focal point is on the administration that was in office during that time to point any blame. The truth of the matter is, we're it. It's
Right.
a game of tag.
Exactly.
We're it. We're coming up with the solutions. We've removed the Stormwater Division and now have turned it into the Stormwater Management Department. The cost, we've been talking about stormwater being the star of the show, and we've talked about now the stormwater the fee has been added to the tax roll because we must take care of the infrastructure here in Rockdale County. I'm afraid that there's probably a few other
Right, and we just
issues
haven't
like that throughout the
figured
county
them out
that
yet.
have not been detected because of low amount of manpower and personnel to address a lot of these issues. Our phones began to ring a lot when the storms come. We're working our way toward it. However, I think tying it all together, Commissioner, to your point, this is unacceptable.
Right.
However, it was done by a citizen to remedy the problem that he or she had at that particular time. Going forward, proactively, our goal is to make sure that we have funding. Let me
Right.
start there.
Yes.
Funding in order to address these issues. When people send photos of their front yard, backyards, or driveways that look like Lake Erie, the only way we can address it from a culvert and a stormwater perspective, we've got to have the right funding. We have to have enough personnel in the street to mitigate these problems. So I'm glad that whether it was technology services or PR or whoever found this photo, I know the commissioner had been itching to share this with us and to make this point to validate the cost factor in terms of stormwater being
Right.
the star of the show.
And you said it, this administration has decided that this is going to be a priority. And I think that it was when I saw this picture that I realized that the buck stops here because we deserve better.
Absolutely.
We deserve better than this. We are a better community than this. And our citizens, our children, and our grandchildren definitely deserve better than this. So we're working on solutions, and I'm proud to say that having the gumption to put together a plan that does include an increase in stormwater fees definitely is going to help eliminate some of these problems, but it's a necessary thing that this board has to do. And I'm off my soapbox for today. I'm done. Thank you.
Does that wrap you up?
I'm wrapped.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to comment about the memorial service yesterday out at Veterans Park. First off, if you've not been to Veterans Park, you should go out there. It is a beautiful location. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful, through the trees, you can see the lake, which is something to have a lot of pride about because it is our reservoir in Rockdale County. Other entities, other governments are envious of the fact that we have our own source of water. Mm-hmm. We are not involved in any of the water wars that are going through the court system throughout Georgia and Florida and Alabama, because we are self-sufficient in that manner. And I think, looking at that picture about stormwater too, I think that's the goal that this board has, is to become not just the best, but self-sufficient, mm-hmm. so that we are managing in an effective way the issues that come up, the issues that we're presented with that were created way before us, but trying to reach out and make solutions to those problems that we are presented with. And in an effort to make us self-sufficient. Okay. I think going back to the service yesterday, I too was very impressed with the keynote speaker. My brother is a retired chaplain in the Army, and I could picture him presenting something similar, and the thing that stood out to me was his mention of peace, mm-hmm. and the fact that peace comes because of the conflicts that we have been involved in as a country that have kept peace at our borders, while those in the military have encountered unpeaceful situations to keep the peace at home. So domestic terrorism is going to be forefront, I believe, in the next probably coming years. Has been aggravated tremendously with during this period of COVID. I don't understand why. I'm not sure the experts understand why yet, or what is at the root of that. But you know, we continue to mourn with those communities that have been subjected to domestic terrorism in the last few months. I also think it's interesting that we just now have learned of the just inconceivable violence that occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma 100 years ago. I learned of that incident when I went to a Stepping Up program in Tulsa a couple of years ago. I had never heard about it. It's not been written in history books. Nobody studied that in school. And I think as we begin to uncover more of these injustices, that it's a wake-up call to all of us that you know, we can't do anything about the history, but we can learn from it, and we can move forward, and we can make sure it doesn't happen again. And along with that, I have so appreciated the videos of that we've had each voting session each month on the Black history in Rockdale. And I think we've encountered some of the uncomfortable history that has occurred here, because all I had heard about was, oh, it all went so well, and integration was happening, and the communities have worked together. But, you know, the last one, we heard of some things that were difficult. And so I think it's a time for reflection for all of us. That all ties into Memorial Day, and it ties into our the service of our veterans, and it ties into peace, the social justice that everyone deserves and needs and wants and is guaranteed by our Constitution. And so I just think it's important for each of us individually to be introspective about how we can make our sphere of influence just a little bit better, a little more peaceful, a little more equitable, just a little more mercy and justice. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll just have a few comments, and I too want to piggyback a little bit off of what both commissioners have said. Yesterday was a day of remembrance out at the Walk of Heroes Memorial Park. I also encourage you that if you've not gone out there, you need to pay a visit. It's one of the quality of life amenities that we have here in Rockdale County that's part of our community that we're most proud of. And we certainly encourage you to take the young people. If you have children, certainly take them out. It's a good place to have a picnic. It's a wonderful place for education and information about all of our armed forces. And it's a beautiful landscape right next door to the Black Shoals Retreat House and the Randy Pointed Lake that the commissioner made reference to. So on that note, I do want to recognize all of the board members of the Walk of Heroes, including Chairman Wheeler. Chairman Wheeler is one of our former chairman of Rockdale County Board of Commissioners. He now serves as the chairman of the Walk of Heroes. And they were responsible for yesterday's event. He and many members of their board did a fantastic job, as they do every year. Another big shout out to our very own Sean Kimball from Public Relations, who make sure that at each of their events they have the audio-visual sound and technology in order to produce a quality event. Also to Parks and Recreation, the Deputy Director Jason Redmond was there on point. The place was immaculate, clean. The facilities, one of the ladies, one of the older ladies on the way out, she said to me, I just wanted to thank you for having clean restrooms out here. and that's a big deal. That's a big deal, and I appreciated her paying attention to that.
Well, Rockdale County restrooms are normally pretty clean. I will, because as a walker, I use them a lot, so maintenance, y'all do a good job.
They do a fantastic job, and you're absolutely right, Commissioner. I've seen you out there walking, and over on Parker Road, 1400, I know we've put 2 new facilities out there, and they're always very clean, and people will let us know if there's a problem. But I will say, when and if there is a problem, again, our Parks and Recreation team does a fantastic job. So yesterday was a great day of remembrance, as both commissioners said. The education and the understanding about Memorial Day is really what's important to make sure that people are aware of why we celebrate, or should I say commemorate, Memorial Day. It's not about cookouts and beaches and swimming parties and all of those things. Although we as Americans, we look for any reason we can get to come together, and particularly coming outside of this pandemic. So, but it was a great event out there, and well attended as well. I also want to, there is a growing situation that's happening in our community. A lot of it is the downside, or backside, should I say, of the pandemic and COVID. As you know, the federal government and state governments throughout the country placed mandates on landlords as to what they could and could not do as relate to a tenant, where evictions are picking up. So I received throughout the weekend several text messages of individuals who unfortunately have been evicted, and household goods and waste and stuff are now lining up some of the streets. So you're going to be seeing a little bit more of that because things are changing. When I make reference to this, commissioners, I cannot talk about this without pointing out what we've been singing a message about over the last few weeks, is that just about every shop in and around Rockdale County, retail, hospitality, restaurant, bistro, manufacturing, industrial, they are hiring. A lady said to me at Publix yesterday morning, she says, Mr. Chairman, does the county have any low entry level jobs? My grandson needs a job. Well, you know how old school I am with that whole work ethic thing. I said, well, we may have a few positions available. He should check our website. However, every shop up and down the street, every plant, every manufacturing plant are looking for qualified, competent people. But more importantly, they're looking for people who really want to work. No one in this climate right now can say that they just can't find a job, because there's opportunities throughout Rockdale County and beyond if folks really want to work. And let me just tell you, whether it's Diversitech, Biolab, Pratt, and some of the new industrial plants, these folks are paying $16, $18, $20 an hour for an individual with only a high school diploma. That's good, and particularly if you don't have to get on I-20 and travel westbound into the metropolitan area. You can make that within 10 to 15 minutes of your home within Rockdale County. That's good money for someone that only has a high school diploma at $18 to $20 an hour, and you live only 10 to 15 minutes away from your workplace. Thought I'd point that out because I want people to know there are opportunities if folks really want to work. The other thing I want to continue, and I'm going to continue with this, we have got to ask our citizens, commissioners, to continue to participate, and in some areas, even ramp it up with the see something, say something. People are getting out, the season is changing, as we know, and we're seeing more and more cases of litter, folks dropping stuff that just should not be dropped, mattresses and all of those household items. I saw 4 huge bags just off of Highway 138 North, along with a mattress, and the location was plain and clear that someone had to pull up with a truck and unload this stuff, and it was right there on the side of the road. If you see something, say something. The least amount of information you can get could be helpful in an investigation for code enforcement and the sheriff's office. I will tell you that there is a county ordinance that the sheriff's office and the city police can enforce for people who are littering. So we really want to make sure that we do all we can to protect the aesthetics of our community and the cleanliness of our community. So just this littering issue is a big deal, and we've got to address it. Last but not least, Commissioner Washington reminded us that school is out, and young people are moving throughout our community. They're playing in communities, in the streets, in neighborhoods, and subdivisions. They're at the park. They're walking to and fro to different places throughout the community. Please, ma'am, please, sir, watch your speed. But more importantly, I want to point this out, Commissioner Washington, to the parents. Know where your child is. Know where your children are. Each night, each evening, we're watching something, part of the top stories somewhere in Metro Atlanta, where something tragic is happening to young people. And it disturbs me that these young folks, some of these young people are doing things that are just beyond our imagination with guns and criminal activity. Take nothing for granted. Pay attention to your surroundings, whether you're pumping gas or going into the convenience store, pulling into a parking lot. I have to talk about these things because this is a part of what we experience in a community. Know where your children are as often as you possibly can. Ask questions about their whereabouts and find out who their friends are. You need to know this kind of stuff. So I think in the global scheme of keeping our community safe, keeping young people safe, and keeping parents without having to go down to George Levitt and Sons or Scott Ward to make arrangements, when we can keep track of that's graphic, but guess what? That's real, and that's on the news every evening. And I'm the father of 4, so my heart goes out when I see something bad happening to other folks. And I'm wondering how these folks not know where their children are at 11:30 at night, 12 in the morning, or 2 in the morning. How did he or she get a gun at 13, 14, 15 years old? So this is something folks don't like to talk about. I'm going to talk about it because I want Rockdale County and the city of the Conyers to be safe. More importantly, parents, you have to be accountable and take accountability of your children. So know where your child is, know where your children are. It is the summer months, and kids are ready to get out and let loose some of that energy that's been kind of cooped up and bottled in, and we want people to be safe. We want our community to be safe. I pray to my God that I don't ever get a gun of any type put in my face for any reason. Absolutely. Certainly don't want to see it in the hand of a juvenile who doesn't know what he or she is doing. And I reminded my family the other day that it's not just for boys. Girls do crazy things too. And sometimes they'll set you up, so you have to be alert. You don't want to be paranoid, but you have to be alert and make sure that you are aware of your surroundings. Enough there. Just want to make sure that parents know that we have to be accountable and know the whereabouts of our children. Chief Cabe, is there any need for executive session this morning?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Director Barkley. Thank you to Robin with Global Growers. And we appreciate all of you all being in attendance. Mr. Lewis, certainly appreciate your time this morning and your input. Happy Tuesday. This meeting is adjourned.